Hello everyone, it is actually happening. Nigeria woke up to shock and controversy after reports emerged that the United States, under President Donald Trump, launched a military strike on suspected terrorist targets within Nigerian territory, particularly in Sokoto, in northwest part of Nigeria. The announcement, first made from the United States rather than Abuja, sparked intense national debate, raising urgent questions about Nigeria's sovereignty, security capacity, and the growing role of foreign powers in its internal conflict. As Nigerians react with anger, support, confusion, and fear, the federal government has now confirmed its position, insisting the operation was not a unilateral invasion, but a coordinated counter-terrorism effort between the US government and the Nigerian government. Of course, let's head to the Donald Trump message that left many Nigerians complaining. On Trump's wall, he wrote, "Tonight, at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, the United States launched a powerful and deadly strike against ISIS terrorist scum in northwest Nigeria, who have been targeting and viciously killing primarily innocent Christians at levels not seen for many years and even centuries. I have previously warned these terrorists that if they did not stop the slaughtering of Christians, there would be hell to pay. And tonight, there was. The Department of War executed numerous perfect strikes, as only the United States is capable of doing. Under my leadership, our country will not allow radical Islamic terrorists to prosper. May God bless our military, and Merry Christmas to all, including the dead terrorists, and of which there will be many more if their slaughter of Christians continues." Donald J. Trump, President of the United States of America. Now, I want you to carefully listen to this very interview in this Arise TV.
Tweet from Characteristics, who wrote, "I am almost convinced that the response from Nigeria's foreign affairs was an afterthought. Clearly, the United States cannot be restrained from eliminating notorious terrorists. President Trump's statement did not suggest that the operation was carried out in collaboration with the Nigerian government. His words were explicit: at my direction as Commander-in-Chief, not in partnership with Nigeria. Let's even assume, without conceding, that the Nigerian government was aware of the operation. Why then did the statement not come directly from the president himself, using the same authoritative language, at my directive, as Commander-in-Chief? I be president, they sleep. Sleep where he no sleep when INEC declare him president at 3 a.m. I strongly doubt that the Nigerian government was aware of the timing of the targeted strike. The public should not be deceived by after-the-fact statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. What we are witnessing looks more like reactive diplomacy than proactive security leadership." And I'm reading this tweet because this is the minds of a lot of Nigerians who rightly believe that this might not be a joint, attack. Meanwhile, U.S. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth confirmed the launch in a post on X, thanking the Nigerian government for cooperating with the United States on the attack. And here is Pete's tweet. He wrote, "The president was clear last month. The killing of innocent Christians in Nigeria and elsewhere must end. And the Department of War is always ready. So ISIS found out tonight on Christmas. More to come. Grateful for Nigerian government support and cooperation. Merry Christmas." Even AFCOM released a statement, and I'll read that. They wrote, "At the direction of the President of the United States and Secretary of War, and in coordination with Nigerian authorities, U.S. Africa Command conducted strikes against ISIS terrorists in Nigeria on December 25th, 2025 in Sokoto State." Another confirmation there. Also, the Nigerian military has also confirmed conducting the precision strikes against ISIS elements in northwest Nigeria. In a statement released today, the Major General Samilia Uba said the operation was a joint effort between the armed forces of Nigeria and the United States, adding that the strikes were approved by federal government authorities and followed credible intelligence aimed at degrading the terrorist group's capability. Well, in this same statement, the Nigerian army reiterated its commitment to restoring peace and security across Nigeria. And I'll take this final tweet, a reaction that, gladdened my heart. Lucky wrote on X, "Yes, this is good news. Reports confirm U.S. airstrikes against ISIS elements in Sokoto State carried out in coordination with Nigeria." Beyond the headlines, this is a strong statement against terrorism and a reminder that global security is interconnected. For a nation bruised by insurgency, banditry, and bloodshed, disrupting extremist networks is no small win. If peace is the greatest gift any country can receive, then degrading terror cells that prey on innocent lives may be one of the most meaningful gifts Nigeria gets this season. Security first, everything else follows. Finally, on ground in Jabo village of Sokoto State, a new video showing the debris from the aftermath of the missile launch on the terrorists has made the rounds on social media. Let's take a look.
That's the actual thing that is happening in Jabo town now. And so we're gonna bomb going to Nakia, the house.
All right, that's a reaction on ground. The villagers have said that there was no casualty in this incident. However, this video highlights the human impact of these attacks and how ordinary citizens often have to deal with the consequences of the aftermath. And I'll take one final post on X. This person wrote, "Why bomb northwest Nigeria on Christmas, claiming to protect Christians, when experts say most killings there are from bandits fighting over land and resources, killing way more Muslims?" And that's another rhetoric that we have to deal with this whole intervention.
Very important for information management and ensuring that only the fact is what is being shared at this point in time, because we've seen a number of responses to these attacks. The first thing is that the first fact on ground is that it was a joint operation. Yes, you might criticize or not like the way in which the information was shared or the timing or who shared information first, as I've just seen the PDP statement on these attacks, whereby there is, I thought it was quite good to say that when it comes to joint operations like this, Nigeria ought to take the lead or at least share that responsibility to ensure that we're not hearing about what's happening on our own soil by a foreign party, even if it's the United States of America. So you can take that feedback away. But consistently, whether it's from the military, Director of Defense Information, or from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, it is clear that Nigeria worked with the United States by providing credible intelligence and by approving the airstrikes before it happened. That's a statement on ground. That's what happened. It's important to put that out there. Now, I think it's also very dangerous to try to put a slant to it, so that, it's Christian. There's terrorism. And when we talk about terrorism, it makes sense, or it's the sensible thing to note is that it's not only where they operate that their cells are located. You can operate in the northeast and have cells in the northwest. And what we had said was that this was done after weeks of intelligence gathering, and so a response was done with regards to the first airstrikes. It has been said that this is the first, but potentially the first of a number of airstrikes if we do have issues around this instance. So I think it's important to put those facts out there. Another thing to mention that's important is that when we talk about the region most affected by terrorism and acts of terrorism, it's the northern region. And so the most important things on the mind of the people should be this: how does this affect us? Would this be finally a light at the end of this long tunnel of insecurity that we have had to endure for at least 15 years? And if that is the case, then all hands should be on deck to support the efforts of the Nigerian government to finally decimate the terrorists. The only other thing to then talk about is the number of casualties in terms of collateral damage. Yes, this is a thing because in the past we've seen where Nigerian Air Force strikes themselves, whether in Zamfara earlier this year or last year in the same Sokoto on Christmas Day, had some civilian casualties. Every single Nigerian life matters. So what they're saying is that the reason why they keep using the word precision is that it was precise to attack the terrorists themselves with as minimum as possible, civilian collateral damage. This is the fact on ground currently. The most important thing, Oji, is that finally we see a seriousness and a deliberateness to destroy and decimate terrorism and terrorists in Nigeria. Right. That is what the Nigerian people should be celebrating this morning.
I'm also getting reports from, Bayo Ononuga. He reposted the Foreign Ministry's statement about the joint efforts, but I think that he alluded to the fact that the attack also occurred in Zamfara State, Rufai. I don't believe I greeted you all this morning. Good morning to both of you. Business. Yes, we're here to work. How are you this morning? Ruby on fire.
So you alluded to what do we want? We want an end to terrorism, right? So why are we complaining about the first step? Because this is decisive. For the very first time, we talked about the fact America didn't give us weapons due to the Leahy laws. Anyway, they sold super tucanos to us once Trump came in the first time. We talked about the fact that we might not have capacity to be able to fight these
stringent constitutions.
Yes, for the use
of the super tucano.
Okay, but it was during Buhari's time that super tucano finally came in.
Yeah, but the Jonathan government got
so Buhari finally got that
initial process.
Secondly, we talk about the fact that we can't do this alone, that we need expertise from America, isn't it? Didn't we all argue across board that we need expertise? In fact, we also argued about boots on the ground, because I'm just trying to chronicle the conversation we had leading up to this. That's okay, maybe America can't put boots on the ground and everything. So why, when America probably used a Tomahawk that I know that we don't even have in our military arsenal or fleets, because if I check the price of a Tomahawk missile, it's going to cost a lot. I'm not sure in any way in Nigerian arsenal we have it like a Tomahawk missile that can go about close to 1,500 or 2,500 kilometers. We used a long precision strike missile. It got in there. We had an attack. Luckily or unluckily, The villagers have not complained of anything as regards a casualty. In fact, you can see the villagers hovering around there. It's just for us to be able to get a recce. Then why after that, we're now hearing narrative by some people that, hey, why must it be America? Secondly, some people are even trying to tell us to our face without providing facts that, hey, Nigeria didn't do anything with America. It's America alone that did it.
Well, that was how Trump posted.
No,
I feel like it was just at his command as commander-in-chief.
At least.
I mean, I thought that was, Trump style.
Braggadocious.
Yes.
But we have seen from our own authority that it was a collaborative effort. And you need intelligence here. And I've also pointed the fact that it's not today that we've had that level of intelligence. Yeah. Thirdly, then you now start to hear narrative about religious dynamics. All of a sudden, we all remember that. We all agreed leading up to this time that America should help us. Then the likes of Sheikh Gumi said, I don't mind terrorists being killed, but as long as it's on holy hands like America, I have a problem with it. But the same Sheikh Gumi that doesn't mind on holy hands like America supplying aid through USAID that they used to feed poor children in the same northern part of the country, he doesn't mind the aid though. The aid is not unholy. All of a sudden, to keep banditry and the terrorists have become unholy. He said Nigeria Bush should go in there. Then the next narrative, all of a sudden they are now plotting, is the fact that, when you look at this, it's denting our sovereignty. The same thing that Nigeria admitted that it's us and America that worked on this. So they choose to ignore that statement, and now they are now saying it's denting our sovereignty. Oji, see, the Nigeria that I know very well, in the coming weeks, it will continue. In fact, I think Shehu Sani has even come out to say this morning that Nigeria should know that going forward, that Nigeria still needs to solve its own problem internally. And say, we know all these things. Right. But the question we are asking is, why is this strike all of a sudden causing jiggy and everything? Oji, if you get more of this reaction, it just shows that to a large extent, what we say we want, when we now start to see the results, some people don't get happy about it. Right. And we need to be careful. All right. Misinformation will continue in the coming days. All right. So you will see people trying to skew narrative. But please, let's stay thorough. President Tinubu on this, you have started a process. You know, I don't agree with you on a lot of things, President Tinubu, but on this, the process, at the you started to end terrorism. All right. I know it will come with consequences, but stay tall. All right.
Dr. Abati, was, quite reassuring to see the Department of War by your Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, respond in the manner that he did. And, I think that was a reassuring tweet that there was this collaboration between the United States and Nigeria. But, when we saw Donald Trump's tweet, how can you fault some Nigerians that believe that this was an invasion by the US without collaboration? These are the sort of questions out there.
Trump will always be Trump. Yes. Trumpism. Yesterday I was saying that, Trump, either for negative or positive reasons, is the main subject of the year 2025 in terms of his interventions within the international space. Now, Trump has gone to Syria to have military operation, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Somalia, and now Nigeria. And so, he fits into a pattern. And he's speaking also to the conservative Christian evangelist base in the United States, whom he had promised that he would defend the interests of Christians anywhere in the world. So there's that political subtext to it, to say, I promise to go after radical Islamists anywhere in the world, now we're in Nigeria. But the clarification came from both the War Secretary, Pete Hegseth, and also from the Nigerian authorities, who said this is about collaboration. And collaboration, cooperation has been part of this narrative, with the Nigerian government saying originally that, look, we want cooperation. With the Nigerian government proposing and achieving the objective of a Nigeria US working group on the basis of which two delegations from the US came here, and the National Security Advisor led a delegation to the United States. People must expect some form of outcome in that regard. So there's no need for any quibbling. Number two is the geopolitics of it. Now, I said earlier, when Vimbai was here, that look, the Americans, AFRICOM, they call it, African Command. AFRICOM, yes. Their biggest operation is in Djibouti, but they maintain training, patrolling operations in cooperation with other countries within the West African region. Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria, and, another country, is it Guinea also? No, I forget the next country. So this operation was from the Gulf of Guinea, from a USS Polygnesius. That was where they fired the Tomahawk missile from. And that means that, there is American presence within the Gulf of Guinea. And the geopolitics of it is that it may be Nigeria today, it may be another country tomorrow. Because after all, it's not only in Nigeria that we have terrorism, where they have it in Mali, they have it in other countries within the Sahel. Right. Now America is positioning itself. The third thing is this thing about misinformation. There's a lot of work for the Ministry of Information of Nigeria to do. Absolutely. A lot of work for the Directorate of Defense in the Defense Headquarters to take on these narratives that are coming up from people who have been mischievous, from people who have been deliberately ignorant, from people who are trying to politicize this. Global terrorism, the main issue is about cooperation. And the Nigerian government must give us information, even about the casualties, in case there are casualties, because as Trump has promised that he will return, if he sees that ISIS and Boko Haram are not relenting, then of course we may get to a point where there will be collateral damage, which is the reality of war.
Okay, Dr. But just to quickly debunk the misinformation going on, in fact, AFRICOM, General David Anderson, commander of AFRICOM, has confirmed that it was a working relationship between Nigeria and regional partners to increase, so that is confirmed. So for those that say it's only Nigerian authorities, it's not only Nigerian authorities that confirmed that it was a cooperation, it was both AFRICOM and Nigerian authorities. So,
and it's a style.
Yeah.
I read that without
Thank you.
Now, I have a problem. And my problem is for those questioning the sovereignty of Nigeria. Those asking, Donald Trump made a speech of commander-in-chief. Is he the commander-in-chief of Nigeria? Is he commander? See, I have a problem. And I want you to listen very carefully as I walk you through what you should understand, because you lack information. And I think you should leave bias and focus on the real issue. So what am I talking about? For decades, Nigerians in terror hit communities. These have lived with fear as insurgents and bandits turn villages into graveyards. Children stop going to school. Farmers abandon their land. And entire communities learn to sleep with one eye open. Government came and went. Promises were made, but their life continued to be taken. Then suddenly, on Christmas Day, the world heard that United States had carried out an airstrike on terrorist camp in Nigeria. This is not an airstrike against Nigerian sovereignty. It is an airstrike against the bandits, the terrorists. But then, the news did not come from Abuja. It came from Washington. Within hours, Nigeria was thrown into a heated argument. Some Nigerians asked, how can a foreign country bomb our land? Others asked a harder question, where was this outrage when Nigerians were dying every week, every day, every hours? The Nigerian government later said the strike was a joint operation, but the debate had already escaped the walls of official statement and entered the heart of the people, especially those who have buried their loved ones for years with little protection. Today, Nigeria is not arguing about airstrikes. It is arguing about what sovereignty really means. Is it the control of the land or the protection of life? What are you even talking about? What is the basic role of government if not to protect life and properties? And when this cannot be done by any government, it will simply means that such government is incapable. Now, I have 10 hard questions for those defending sovereignty over lives of people, many thousands, or should I say millions of Nigerians. First question is, where was Nigerian sovereignty when entire villages were wiped out without justice for years? How does sovereignty comfort a mother who buried her child killed by terrorists the government failed to stop? 3. If sovereignty is sacred, why has it not saved farmers, traders, worshippers, and students from daily attacks? 4. Is sovereignty still meaningful when citizens feel abandoned by their own state? 5th question, how many more Nigerians must die before sovereignty becomes action instead of a slogan? 6th, why is there loud outrage over a single foreign strike, but silence over thousands of domestic deaths? My 7th question, should a nation protect its image first or its people first? If Nigeria truly had full control, why do terrorists still operate freely after decades? My 9th question, at what point does defending sovereignty become an excuse for government failure? 10th, if your own family had lived under terrorist threat for 10 years, would you still argue sovereignty over survival? I mean, we are talking about people's life, the lives of the people. This development is far more than a military operation. It is a political statement with deep domestic and international implication. Sovereignty versus survival. At the heart of this issue is a painful dilemma. Is Nigeria sacrificing sovereignty in order to survive terrorism? Why the government insists the strike was jointly approved? The fact that a foreign leader announced military action on Nigerian soil before Nigerian authorities spoke creates a perception problem, no doubt. In politics, perception often matters more than technical explanation. To many citizens, this looks less like partnership and more like dependency. Foreign military intervention, invited or not, usually signals one thing: a loss of confidence in a country's ability to handle its own security challenges. For years, Nigeria have watched terrorism, banditry, insurgency spread across regions with little decisive victory. This strike, to me, unintentionally reinforces the narrative that Nigeria's security architecture is totally overwhelmed, forcing the state to rely on external firepower. Donald Trump's framing of the strike, especially along religious line, is politically calculated, no doubt. It plays well to his domestic base and international image as a strong man, but it risks oversimplifying Nigeria's complex security crisis, which is not purely religious, but almost economic, ethnic, and political. I mean, we have much more problems than banditry, terrorism in Nigeria. So, such framing is dangerous because it can deepen religious suspicion, polarize communities, turn a counter-terrorism effort into identity conflict. Now, the Nigeria's government's biggest mistake here may not be the cooperation itself, but how poorly it managed public communication. When citizens hear about a foreign strike in their country from Washington before Abuja, trust erodes. In a democracy, silence creates a space for conspiracy theories, anger, and opposition narrative. Now, here's what you see online. Nigerians are actually divided, or should I say splitted, into three broad camps. Those who welcome any help, arguing that lives matter more than pride. Secondly, those who see it as humiliation, a sign Nigeria has lost control. They worry this opens the door to unchecked foreign intervention in the future. All three reactions are valid, and that itself shows how fragile national consensus on security has become. Here's the bigger picture that I want you to take away. These strikes exposes a hard truth. Nigeria is at a crossroad where military weakness, political mistrust, and external influence intersect. The real question is no longer whether foreign powers can strike in Nigeria, but how Nigeria rebuilds its security credibility so it doesn't need them to. Until that happens, incidents like this will continue to challenge the country's authority, both at home and on the global stage. Seriously speaking, Nigeria is in a mess. That is what you get when the government is not serious about curbing the insecurity within the country. Now, this is not me celebrating a foreign intervention. No, it is a mirror forcing Nigeria to confront an uncomfortable truth. A state that cannot protect its people risks losing more than sovereignty. It risks legitimacy. In the end, history will not ask us who defended borders the loudest. It will ask us who saved lives when it mattered most. Sovereignty means nothing if the people it is meant to protect are left defenseless. A foreign intervention is not the solution, but it becomes inevitable when failure is allowed to last too long. Nigeria must decide what truly defines a nation: the pride of borders or the safety of its citizens. Until leaders answer that question with action, not speech, this debate will return again and again, and each time after more blood has been spilled. Thank you for listening. Stay informed, stay positive, and of course, don't forget to smash the subscribe button and subscribe to this very channel so you'd always get notified each time we drop a new update. And please don't forget to leave your comment. Leave us with your comment what you think about this very US intervention. As always, this is Able Perspectives, your domain for unfiltered news and raw political analysis.